Hey, welcome to Pipe Show. This is Bubal. In this video, we're going to talk about something like a mocking response. So, mocking response is really needed when you're developing an application along with the service team. So, usually, when the new feature comes in, service team will always ask for some time to develop something from the service side end, like they will fix and they will find the right way of fetching the data from the database and everything, and then finally they will deploy the service. Even though when the deployment, if something goes wrong, we have to wait for some time that to be up in order to validate everything. Okay, so before they get into the development, they usually share something like a mock response to us, like this is how it should be. And usually what we will do is we'll do the development in parallel by hard coding the responses somewhere else. We have a number of feed where just hard code the response somewhere else and fetching it and just rendering the UI, and we just do the markup, and then we also ready with the changes when the service has been deployed, and we just do the integration testing and make sure that everything's working. And then if something goes wrong, we'll go and fix it. Okay, this is how our entire development will happen, like parallel development would have been happening. Okay? Most of the time we might not be having a data like the user does not exist a scenario, or users exist but they are deactivated scenario. Let's say if you have some price is goes out of bound, like I'd say only 10 prices and 10 prices already distributed. If 11th user comes in, then you have to say that the price is not exist kind of thing. So this kind of different scenario we can able to test it without having the service dependency. That's what this video is all about. First I will show you something interesting, okay, so that you will understand what I mean. So this is my Big Boss show. If you see that v1 Big Boss show slash show, if the moment you click on it, it's gonna give you the response that will be having the shows as well as reviewers. So you can have the number of YouTube channels here. So this is how the normal scenario would be. If this response is empty, like there is no running shows, particular scenario, I already design a screen that will show some animation saying that empty. So in that scenario, what should I do? Like instead of sending this response, I supposed to send the empty response to the caller, right? So the way I do is I have something like a scenario where I set just call this function, and then when I come back, when you hit the server again, now it's gonna gives you very empty response, which means there is a no value in it. Okay, but look at this, I didn't make any changes there. I just hit one API that I created myself. The moment I hit that API, the game is getting changed. So instead of response, it gives you the empty response. Okay, and also let's say I have two data in it, right? One is shows, another one is reviewers. Let's say I just want to have only shows. I don't want reviewers data. In that case, local endpoint, if I hit this endpoint, and then if the users try to hit the shows again, now they would have receiving only the shows information. There is no receiver like a reviewer information in that. So let's say another scenario, like I just want to have the only the reviewer response. I don't want the shows in it. Okay, in that cases also I have been handled with this one. Let's say I'll put the system into this state, like only reviewer scenario state on, and the moment now the user is this particular API, they would have ended up with getting only the reviewers response. Based on my scenarios, like I'll set the state of my server. So the moment I change my state, I'm gonna respond you with a different kind of scenarios. So this will help you to test all number of possible scenario. Like you can put the system into this particular scenario, I could say state, then you hit the particular API, then you will end up with getting this kind of response. I'll show you one other things, like let's say I want to test the server error, like 500, 503, 404. These are all possible scenarios, right? So you cannot ask the server to shut down the machines or shut down the server in order to test this kind of scenario, like showing the error messages or a screen kind of thing, right? So this kind of testing can be happen only the server is getting down, or we just do it in a local environment, and then we hope that it always work. But that's not a true. Sometime it may not be work. So it better to put that particular server in that particular state and perform the testing too. So for that I created another state, like a server error state. I'll put the system server into that particular state. Then again I'm hitting this big boss service like a big boss slash show. Now I'll be getting something like a 500 which says a server is down, and again I want to put this server into the maintenance mode. So if I put this into the maintenance mode, then if I hit it again, so instead of 500 it gonna gives me, okay, once again. So before that, the server error is something like different. I need to reset the scenarios in order to change the state. Okay, so I'll go back to the here and maintenance mode and put the system into the maintenance mode. Then I come back and hit the same endpoint. Now I'll be end up with getting 503 instead of 500. So again I reset my scenarios, and then I go back. I'll put my server into another state like API error. So if by putting this state, if I hit the particular API, then I'll be getting something like 404. So in this way, we can able to test the error scenario as well. So now coming back to the real implementation, how we gonna set up this kind of environment is our biggest question. To setting up this environment, you need to go for something like a Wiremock. This is an open source jar file that you could have seen it here. The way you're supposed to invoke the this particular Wiremock is by executing this command like java jar and then say this particular jar, and you just also specify which port is supposed to be running and some configuration. I already put this information in the readme file as well. You just refer it. Okay, the moment you just run this mock server, what it will do is it will create a mock server for you. This is how it will be. Okay, you could see that it's running on port 9191. You can change it at any point in time. It says a Wiremock. Okay, now your local server is ready. The moment you execute this command, it's gonna create the two different folders if it's not exist. The first folder is underscore underscore files, and second folder is mapping. So the intention of this folder is you can have a combination of data inside this folder. For example, Big Boss shows. Okay, so I created one folder like a Big Boss -shows -API, and here I put the different combination of data. For example, empty underscore show means it just have the empty value. That's the value I've seen it here. Like the moment I just put the state into the empty, and when I execute that particular API, you will end up with getting this empty response, right? This empty response were read it from here. Okay, I'll show you how to do that mapping and all. Okay, and another set of data is like only reviews. Here I'll be having only the reviews response, so it doesn't have anything like it shows in it, right? It just have the reviewers in it. Okay. And another set of data would be like only shows. I'll just put the only shows response here, and the default.json will be having both the information like shows as well as the reviewers. So this is a all combination of data I should have written to the client based on the different state. So now you clear, right? The underscore underscore file is only to hold the different combination of data that we supposed to supply to the client. Now we'll jump into the mapping folder. That's where all the mapping magic is happening. So I'll show you one configuration file. This is a sample configuration file here. So to understand this configuration file, then you need to be familiar with these keywords. First one is a URL. Next one is a URL path pattern. So URL is nothing but your endpoint. That's it. So I'll leave this schema out, and the rest of the values is the right v1 big boss shows. This we call it as a URL endpoints, right? So URL endpoint will be specified here URL. Sometimes the people used to have the URL path pattern as well instead of URL, where you just specify the reject statements, where you just have to match few URL with the different regex formulas. Okay, that's advanced topic. We'll cover it later if we get a chance. Okay, so this is a request. It's simple. It has only method and the URL. There are advanced stuff where we just have the headers and everything, so we don't need to bother about at the moment. Okay, so if the users is asking for this particular URL, and with this method you just have to respond with this value. Here I specify, here we have a response. Here it's specified like status equal to 200, and we are saying that headers equal to content like application JSON, and then body file name is another keyword which specified where you supposed to read the data to send for this particular request. So I already told you, like I have a big boss folder here. This is what it's pointing to, and then it's gonna read the JSON which is specified here, which is nothing but a empty underscore shows that JSON. So somebody hit to this specific URL, it gonna blindly read this response and send to the user. This is how it works. But there is something like a state in it. I showed you state machine, right? So to understand the state machine, there are three things we need to understand. First thing is a scenario name, and the second thing is a new scenario state. Another one is a required scenario state. So scenario name is nothing but like a group of operation can be grouped as a state. For example, we can say like a big boss shows as a screen name. Okay, sorry, scenario name. And we have something like a new scenario state. So every time you are triggering a new scenarios, like for example, if you want an empty scenario, you can put the system into the new scenario state called as empty show. The moment you put the scenario into the particular state, and you can check before responding to the user, if you want to have the empty response, I want to have the scenario like a required scenario states equal to this show hyphen empty. If servers in that particular scenario state, then only you're supposed to return this specific response to the user. That's how we just have to configure this data. For example, if you wanted to put the system into the like empty scenario, for that I created another URL pattern, which is nothing but the scenario shows underscore empty. So this URL help us to put the current server into that particular state, which is nothing but new scenario state, which is shows empty. So if you hit this specific URL, this particular configuration will create a new scenario called show hyphen empty, and the scenario name is equal to big boss shows. Here we are consuming that state whatever you created earlier. So here I said require scenario state. If this system is current state is a show hyphen empty, then you just responded with this specific JSON. Otherwise don't do anything. That's as simple as it is. So I'll show you. Let's say I'll say reset, and if I go ahead and hit it, now I'm gonna get every information, right? Now I go here empty, which is nothing but I show you, right? Scenario slash show slash empty. This is what this one is all about. Like here I created one thing, right? Scenarios slash show slash empty, this exact thing. So the moment I click send, it will create create a new scenario, which is new scenario status, so show hyphen empty, and send you the response like a empty show scenario started. Okay, now system is in the specific scenario. So I'll hit it here, I'll go back, and now you could have seen this, it's giving the empty response because incoming request will be intercepted and sees that the current system is in the specific scenario state, and if it's so, it returns you this particular information. The same case go for here as well. So almost the same kind of things. Here I say that my current system should be in the show only scenario mode. When the system goes into the show only scenario mode, when the user is hit with this specific endpoint like a scenario slash show as underscore only, which is this one, the moment you hit this URL, I'll put the system into this specific mode, which is new scenario states equal to shows only. Now the system turn into this specific mode. Now I configure the data only for that particular scenario, like a show only scenario, which is specified here, right? Require scenario states equal to show only. Then accordingly, I'm just reading the data from here and just rendering it over there. The same goes for reviewer as well. So here, if the user hits with this specific URL like shows slash reviewers, I'll put the system into the only reviewer scenario. Okay, and then the reviewer scenario will be configured here with the required scenario states equal to show reviewer only. Then I'm just passing this body to this specific user and sending it across. Now you would have wondered how the default scenario works. So let's see the default scenario shows.json. Here I didn't specify anything like a required scenario state. So which means if there is no perfect condition matches like thing, then it will be land on to the default one. Even if you put the scenario into the different state, like if you look at this specific URL where I say scenario shows reset, I'll put the scenario into the new state, which is a default -show, which is not being consumed anywhere else. Okay, so which means different system is in a different scenario except the 3 scenario which I specified it here. So if it's in a different scenario or there is no scenario before, then by default if you hit the specific URL, you will be get it with this default JSON. Okay, this is how it works. Okay, this is perfectly fine. How the error cases works? So for error cases also, I just specify the same here. If you want to trigger a error, again I'll be having something scenario like scenario trigger server error, where I specify the method is called post, and then I'll create a new scenarios here. New scenarios equal to server down error started. Okay, this is my new scenario, and the scenario name is a general server error. So if you look at it all 3, so the response could be the same, like scenario name is general server error. So this could be same for all these combinations. And if you look at this here, like a required scenario state is exactly matching with the scenario which I started before. Like here I started the scenario like server down error starter, right? So same will be consumed here. Required scenario state is equal to server down error started, and then if this matches for any URL, so here you could have see the rejects pattern here. So if you are sending the request to any URL to this specific server, this will be intercepted, and then if scenario is if the server scenario is in the specific state, then you will be end up with the status equal to 500 and server is down response to you. Okay, the same way I'll create a one scenario like a scenario trigger server maintenance that you could have seen here. For maintenance, I just ended up with hitting this URL, right? Trigger server maintenance error. And then I'll put the system into the new scenario like a server maintenance error started. And then the same scenario will be configured here. And the same URL pattern, like any, if you hit any endpoints, anything, like if you hit any endpoint, you will be having this particular response back to you, like 503. So same things goes to here as well, like the moment API not found, I put the system into the specific scenario, and the same scenario will be consumed here and return the status equal to 400 to the user. So this is how it works. I already uploaded the specific codes configuration into the specific repositories. Feel free to check out this one. And also I just uploaded this Postman collection here, Wiremock big boss.postman collections, where you just download and import this collections here, so that we'll get all this specific endpoint for the testing. So first thing you're supposed to do is check out this one and go to the specific folder and start your Wiremock server by executing this command, and then open your Postman and go to import new import and drag and drop that particular and then drag and drop this Postman collection here, and then that's it. So it will say that replace. I already have the Postman collections here, right? If I say replace, it will be get replaced with this one. And after you are starting the server, you just play with this. Okay, so whatever I showed to you, it will work the way I showed here. So in case if you want to configure your own data, you just feel free to go here, the __ file, create a new folder for your data. For example, configuration, create a configuration and put different kind of configurations here, and then go to the mapping. And again, you just feel free to create another folder for config and started adding the different scenarios and different configuration matching to that particular files, so that it will be written when the state is into the specific server. So it's all about the state machine. So put your server into the specific state, and in the other end just see if it's a specific state, and then return the data accordingly. That's as simple as this is, but this would have take some time for you to understand, and takes some time to configure this entire server in first place. But the moment you're done with that, your development would be very fruitful, and you can able to cover all different possible scenario without depending on the server. So we never know when server gonna be down, and we never know all the test cases, or whether we never know whether we can able to validate all those test cases or not. Okay, so I know this is a bit long videos. If you like this video, please feel free to share it, and please do support it, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. We'll be end up with feeding all the different level of development things, especially iOS and Android, and especially we concentrating on Tamil. So Tamil people, don't forget to subscribe the channel. This is most important. Okay, otherwise, thank you so much for watching the video, guys. Stay tuned. Bye bye.